Yo, what's up guys? In this video, I'm going to share with you my top 9 vital iPhone tips you should know when you're buying used or refurbished iPhone. I think we can all agree that used or refurbished iPhone is actually a great alternative. It's a great option, it's cheaper, and the quality we're getting is amazing with iPhones if, however, you know what you're buying. So yeah, this video is really important in order to avoid getting scammed. And I think we should also know that what's really great about iPhones is that they're getting so much support for so long. On average, iPhones can get iOS support for 7 years. So yeah, that means that when a new version of iOS is released, probably your iPhone right now will support it. I think this is one of the very big pluses from Apple. Obviously, the first thing we need to do is to check whether the iPhone turns on properly. Long press the on and off switch and there it turns on like it should. Second, you should immediately see whether an iPhone has an iCloud activation lock on it. When you turn on an iPhone, you'll get this screen if there's an iCloud activation lock on it. If not, it just turns on like normal. You probably also could see the new hello screen when you set up an iPhone from zero. When you can turn it on properly, you don't get the iCloud activation lock, you're already pretty good to go. Third, we should check whether this iPhone is locked to a specific carrier. So yeah, this is important because if it's locked to a specific carrier, that means that you're not able to use it with other carriers. What you should do is go to settings. In settings, we scroll down to general, there it is. And in general, we go to about. And in here, if we scroll down, we have this section right here and we can see the network provider lock, no SIM restrictions. So that's really good. So you can use this iPhone with any carrier you'd like. For number 4, we need to check whether this iPhone has had any water damage. This is really something a lot of people underestimate, but water damage is really one of the biggest issues with used or refurbished iPhones. If that has happened to an iPhone, basically the chances of things going wrong with it are pretty high. So in order to do this, you need to have a SIM eject tool and we need to have a look inside the SIM tray here. So we're gonna open this. Just like that, we remove it. And now we should have a look inside here. If there's a red dot popping up somewhere, if you somewhere see a red indicator, that means that this iPhone has had water damage. So that's a big red flag, red dot, red flag. I highly recommend you to not proceed with buying that iPhone. It's just a matter of time until other problems will arise with it. So definitely check for water damage as well. Number 5, and this is a big one, we need to do a full hardware check of all the components of the iPhone. These are actually a lot of steps, but it's a pretty important one. So we want to have a full check of the chassis of the iPhone's hardware. So the camera lenses, are there any scuffs, scratches, or broken pieces? Check the lightning port or the USB-C port on an iPhone 15 model, whether that looks okay, whether the speakers are okay. Then the buttons on the side, so we need to check the buttons as well. Yeah, let's start with that. Is the iPhone turning on and off properly? The volume up and down button, are these functioning? Mute switch, is that working like it should? Looks okay. Then the lenses, the camera lenses. So we go to the camera and then, for example, we check the different lenses. We can, for example, take a video, try out the different lenses. If we see something weird, let's watch that back as well. Pretty important. See if there's nothing wrong with the images we shot. We also need to check the speakers. What I recommend you to do is, for example, go to the voice memos app. Let's open that and we just do a voice recording right there. 1 2 3 test 1 2 3. Looks pretty okay. Let's listen that back. Right there. 1 2 3 test 1 2 3. At the same time that we recorded the voice memo, we also checked the speakers. The speakers seem to be all right as well. You have speakers in the top and in the bottom. What you can also do is maybe play some music and then listen if stereo is working, so audio coming from both sides. Next, we want to check the Bluetooth and microphone. Go to settings and in here we go to Wi-Fi. Turn this off and on and see if you can connect to a Wi-Fi network network and whether Safari or any web application is working properly. The same with Bluetooth. Turn it off and look if it's turning on properly and connect it to, for example, to a speaker or another Bluetooth device in order to check whether it's functioning properly. And lastly is about the display. So we're gonna test the display brightness. We go to our control center and in here, just swipe up and down and see whether the display brightness is doing its thing. Also important is to check for True Tone. If this symbol isn't here, it might be that this iPhone display has been replaced with a third-party one. That's something also really important to take into account. Most of the time, iPhone screens are cracked. That's one of the biggest problems on refurbished iPhones, and they have been replaced. Make sure to also see whether you have True Tone right there. Number 6, we're gonna check for replaced parts. So you need iOS 15.2 installed in order to check this. So how can we check this? We go to General and in here we go to About. If you have any replaced parts, this should be indicated right here. As you can see on this iPhone, it's not the case. But for example, it could look like this. That means that there are parts that have been replaced, maybe the display or the battery, and that should all be indicated in this section. Number 7 is to do an IMEI check. In order to do this, we go to our phone app and we dial *#06#, and then we get this device info menu. And what's important here is this number, the IMEI number. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a screenshot, also perfect to check the buttons, by the way. And it's about this number. We want to copy this number. And now we want to head over to Safari. In Safari, we want to go to iUnlocker.com right there. This is a free tool that we can use in order to check some very important information of this iPhone. So we go to IMEI Check, and in here we can paste our serial number or IMEI number, and let's hit check. And now this is going to load. Might take a little while. All right, so there we go. It took a little while, but no worries. There is the information that we need. iPhone 14 Pro, deep purple. We also see the storage here. This is also something we can find in our settings. And what's important here is the following, and that is country of purchase. I think that's a really important detail to know. So Europe. What's also important is to see whether this iPhone still has Apple Care. Unfortunately, it's out of warranty. And another thing also pretty important is the estimated purchase date. So we can see September 2022. That's around when the iPhone 14 Pro was released. Number 8 is to check the battery health. So there are actually a couple of things here we can do. If we go to settings and we go to our battery, right there, we can see our battery health and charging, and we see our maximum capacity. So we see 88% for a used or refurbished iPhone. That's pretty okay. However, if the maximum capacity is below 80%, I highly recommend you to take that into account, because then you really will feel that your iPhone will drain pretty quickly during the day. It's something to take into account when you are buying a used or refurbished iPhone. Now, there's another thing we can look for, and that's actually the amount of battery cycles that an iPhone has. In order to do that, we go to Safari and we need to install a little shortcut here, which is called battery stats. So we go to Safari and we search for the battery stats shortcut. There we go. Can be called battery stats or power util. In this case, it's called power util. We're going to add this to our shortcuts. There we go. As you can see, I already have it. Let's just replace it. And there it is. Okay, so now we're going back to settings. And in settings, we're going to privacy and security. Within privacy and security, we scroll all the way down to analytics and improvements, and we go to analytics data. Now we have this full list of data files, and actually the most important one is our analytics. We take one of the most recent files, we click on that, then we go to the share icon in the top right and we scroll to the battery stats or power util. Both function the same. Let's click on that, and here we can see all this information. What we just saw is our maximum battery capacity was already 88%, so that's pretty correct. It's this number that's important. It's the amount of cycle. If you have over 600 to 700 battery cycles, that means that your iPhone has done a lot of charging cycles already. Normally, Apple manual says that a battery should have around 500 to 700 battery cycles on average. And if you surpass that number, you're really going to feel that during the day your iPhone drains so quickly. So yeah, this number is actually, it's okay, 467. Maybe in like a year it will be around 600, and then you'll definitely feel that the iPhone will drain pretty quickly. Also an important thing to consider, obviously, when buying a used or refurbished iPhone. So number 9, lastly, and also pretty important actually, it has to do with battery and charging as well. We need to check the charging capabilities of this iPhone. So we're gonna check for wireless charging for MagSafe as well as wired charging. So let's quickly do that. I have my wireless charger right here. Pretty easy. We're just gonna put this on the charging pad and see if it's charging, and there you go, it's charging properly. So wireless charging is working. And of course, maybe more important is the wired input. So we're gonna test a wired input as well. We have our lightning connector here, see if that functions properly, and there we go. Charges normally through both the lightning port or USB-C port, and the wireless charging also functions properly. That's basically everything you need to know when it comes to buying a used or refurbished iPhone. A great alternative, cheaper option, and it's definitely worth the price if you know what you're buying, and that's why I made this guide. Hope it was helpful. Make sure to share it with your friends and family if they need this, and see you in the next one.